not an option. We feel trapped physically or mentally, so therefore we check out. Grief may also trigger us to have this stress response. Our body, our mind may automatically choose a coping mechanism depending on our genetic predisposition, on our personality, our background, past history of trauma, of grief, of suffering. We may automatically take one of these three mechanisms: to fight, to flight, or to freeze. For me, if we look at it that way, it's a little easier to recognize in ourselves which coping mechanism am I employing. It may be one or it may be a combination. At different time of the day, different social setting, when we're alone versus when we are with family members versus when we're at work, we may employ a different mechanism. And so let us take a moment to breathe with each other. Brother Martin, would you be kind to invite us out the bell? And we just check in with our breath, with our body, and just scan through the body gently. See if there's any tension, any ache and pain in our body. Then we breathe into that area a little longer. Massage that area with our mindful breathing, with our attention, and gently say, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. It's okay. It's okay. My dear ones, Thầy said something that is very moving in Vietnamese, and I'll translate it into English for you. He said, này con, có một thứ hành trang giúp con thanh thản đi qua những ngày giông bão của kiếp người. Đó là tự tâm. My child, there is a kind of traveling essential that can help you peacefully go through the stormy days of a human life. That is the compassionate mind. My child, there is a kind of traveling essential that can help you peacefully go through the stormy days of a human life. That is the compassionate mind. So as I share with you about the practice of beginning anew, know that this compassionate mind will help us. It's the essence, the foundation that will hold us to embrace our grief, our losses of a loved one, of our health, of a situation, of an ideal or belief. It will help hold us because of this very compassion. The Beginning Anew practice has 4 steps. The first step that Thầy has talked about is watering the flowers, which I simply call it to say thank you, watering the flowers. When we practice beginning anew, let us always practice it first and foremost with ourselves. Our human tendency is to remember longer and vividly the traumas, the difficulties, the negative aspects. One young student asked, why do people usually choose violence and anger? Like in the case of the young man, George Floyd, who was killed recently by a policeman in America. Why do we usually choose violence or anger? Why don't we choose love? Wouldn't that be more constructive? And I answer her, I said, our ancestors, the plants, the animals, and the cave people, they had to face a lot of danger. So the mechanism of fighting, running away, or freezing, that was first and foremost developed for our survival. So those feelings of fear, of anger, they were developed first. Later, as animals and as human beings came into the view, and as we went through further evolution, the forebrain developed further the capacity for self-awareness. Animals, they are aware of the threats outside, like food. They can look for food, they can look for prey. They're very aware. But to pay attention to their own thoughts, feelings, anticipation, bodily movements, maybe that was not as developed. But as human beings, we have a capacity to be self-aware, to be aware of our bodily movements, gestures, also our thoughts and feelings. With the practice, we cultivate that capacity further. And so it's understandable why, when a difficult situation arises, when we feel disappointment or resentment towards ourselves and others, those feelings are much more upfront and much more powerful. The feelings of self-love, embrace, forgiveness come much later. But as practitioners, we can learn. We can learn to bring that capacity in us for self-awareness, compassion. We can bring that to the forefront. So the practice of watering the flowers help us to consciously in our daily life to recognize the beautiful qualities in us, in our loved ones, in the world, the things that are going right. For example, this morning I woke up around 5 o'clock, and the first moment I woke up, I paid attention to my breath and I learned to smile. And it has become a good habit for me to follow my breathing as I start to massage my head first and to be in touch with the body. You can also practice this. It's so wonderful to check in with the body first thing and to say thank you. Thank you. Whether your hair is still black, is still doesn't have white hair yet, or your hair is turning color of a grayish color, yeah. Recognize it as it is and say thank you to your hair. And massage the forehead, whether our forehead doesn't have any wrinkles yet or that we have many wrinkles. We touch those wrinkles and smile and know that these are the marks of our life, the memories of those moments of our life. They are engraved in every aspect of our body. And we wouldn't want to lift that, do we? We treasure all of those experiences that we have shared with others in our life, these marks that we have. So we massage our face, we massage our eyes, we smile, be aware of the teeth that we still have, yeah, and just massage down part by part the shoulders, the hands, the feet, and say thank you, thank you, thank you for this body, thank you for this new day. It's very wonderful to practice that with ourselves as we wake up in the morning, before we go to sleep, anytime throughout the day. I find myself standing in line waiting to get food, and I say thank you. I love you. Thank you for always trying. Right now I have physical pain, I have joint pain, but I'm still trying, and I'm here with you. Thank you for that love in my heart that helps me to move forward, even though at some moments I just want to stay withdrawn. You see, so we recognize the efforts that we make. We recognize the beauty, the wholesomeness, the truth in ourselves, in our body. And that gives us the energy, helps us to see a big picture. Just like a garden, we want to cultivate the flowers. We want to plant trees and not always looking at the weeds and try to weed and feel overwhelmed by all the weeds, overgrown. So remember the practice of beginning anew, the water flowering part, the saying thank you, practice throughout the day. And then as we are able to offer that to ourselves, we'll be able to offer that to many others. Even a smile, or say thank you. Thank you for setting up the table. Thank you for being there with me all of these years. Who are you to have chosen to be with me, to put up with me all of these years? Thank you. So we practice that, and also even the coping mechanism. If we recognize in ourselves, wow, I usually employ the fight response. It makes me sometimes very harsh verbally, very reactive. Why can't I be calmer? We blame ourselves, reproach ourselves. Take a moment and say, thank you. Just thank our body, mind, the brain for having had the wisdom to pick that coping mechanism that was fittest in that situation when we were a child or as we were growing up and we were facing a difficulty, a trauma. That was the way to help us that we're still alive today. So we have to thank ourselves. Thank that coping mechanism so that we can be at peace with ourselves, can acknowledge what is. And then as we go to the second step of beginning anew, which is to express regrets or to simply say, I'm sorry to ourselves. That's the second step. First step is to say thank you, to water the flowers. Second step is to say, I'm sorry, to express regrets. And again, always practice that with ourselves. Whatever that we can offer to ourselves, do for ourselves, we will be able to offer and do for others. And the results will be much more long-lasting. Many of us are trained to always do work, offer service, to bring change in the world. And yet, meanwhile, we forget ourselves. And as a result, the deep pain, the trauma in us is suppressed. And yet, it manifests in every aspect of our lives. The way we look at ourselves, the way we look at the world, the way we speak, the way we behave, it spills all over the place. Therefore, the teaching on self-care, self-love, self-acceptance, the teaching on healing our grief, our trauma, That's very essential. That's the foundation. It is our service to the world, our healing of the grief that we carry in our hearts, in our body. That healing is the offering, the ultimate offering to the world. So as we recognize the coping mechanism in ourselves, the part of saying I'm sorry is to recognize that back then, at one point in time, that coping mechanism helped us to survive, to go through the situation. It has become a habit, unknowingly. It has become our personality becomes automatic, that whatever stressful situation that arises, whenever it arises, immediately that coping mechanism, either to fight or to run away or to freeze, it becomes foremost. So if we were those of us who naturally, automatically employ the freeze response, we may just withdraw ourselves. We shut down, we dissociate, we disconnect. First and foremost with ourselves, we disconnect and we become very distant to those who we love. We eat, we talk, we work, we do everything normally, and yet something in us has shut down, has deadened. We can sit quietly or lie down quietly, scan through our body, listen to our mind, and recognize the truth of it in ourselves and say, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I have disconnected with my body. I met a woman on a day of mindfulness a few years ago. She said that she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and after she had the bilateral mastectomy, both of her breasts were removed. For 7 years, she said, you know, Sister D, I haven't looked at my body from the neck down. For 7 years now, until today I met you, I haven't looked at myself in the mirror further than the neck. There was that disconnection with the body, that much. Cannot accept the body. Yet the body has always been there for us, through the thick and the thin. So many years, some of us, we work and work, we forget to eat healthy, eat at the regular time, we don't sleep enough, we abuse ourselves physically, overdrive the body, overdrive our mental capacity. We may say to ourselves, you are so stupid, you are a failure, you can't do anything right. There are these voices in our mind. Maybe a mother or a father has said that to us, or a neighbor, somebody, yet it has become ingrained in us. That voice has become our own voice, projected towards ourselves. Say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've said that to myself. As you hear that negative voice arising in you at any moment, take a moment to breathe. I'm sorry, I don't mean that. I don't want to say that to myself. I don't want to think that way about myself. Breathe. Relax. I love you. Help me to find a way out. Help me to take better care of you. Thank you, body. You've always been there to care for me. Thank you. You see, to be able to say thank you is to be able to say you're sorry. And to be able to say you're sorry, you'll be able to discover the innumerable conditions of happiness, of healing that you have in your body, in your life. When I was really sick with Lyme disease, and my skin, I had so many blotches. Just it was so discolored. And I prayed to my grandmother and my mother. My grandmother passed at the age of 76. My mother disappeared when she was 36. But as long as I knew them, they were healthy enough, and I remember they had very good skin complexion. So I evoked my mother and my grandmother in me. I said, please help me to heal, to have the complexion that you have, to smile like you can smile, to be still like you can be grandma. And I evoked them in me. And it helped. As you can see, I have healed a lot from Lyme disease, thanks to the practice, thanks to the practice of beginning anew, of saying thank you, of saying I'm so sorry, I've neglected you for so long, I've hurt you all of these years, telling myself, you're not worthy, might as well just die. Why live? Why live a human life if it's full of suffering? So the compassionate mind helps us to go through the stormy days of our life, of a human life, and to see the beauty, to be so grateful for everything. The third part of beginning anew is to express hurts. Right now, many of us in the world, especially with the pandemic, we have loved ones who are sick, who are hospitalized. We ourselves may not be feeling very well, and not just from COVID. The human conditions. We have the colds, the flu. In the US, more than 100,000 people have passed away from COVID. At the same time, more than 62,000 people have died from the flu in the US. People also die from heart disease, their heart conditions. They also die from suicide, from many different causes. So we are facing a lot of many losses, and that is a part of our human life. The body is of a nature to get sick, even if we're still young. The body is of our nature to grow old. Even a 10-year-old child is growing old. The body is of our nature to die, to disintegrate. And so when we practice to acknowledge, to give thanks to our body, and to express regrets of the things unskillful, thought, speech, and bodily actions we have done to our body and mind, we can learn to be at peace with ourselves. And also to acknowledge the hurts. Sometimes we may feel guilty to hold resentment towards a loved one who is now very sick, or who's dying, or who has passed away. How can I think like that towards my mother or father or my spouse or my children? We may feel guilty. We may feel ashamed for those thoughts, but it's important to recognize them with equanimity, to acknowledge them as they are, and to embrace them. Those of you who have read the book I wrote on healing, and as well as mindfulness as medicine, I was sexually abused as a child by my own uncle. And many years growing up, I didn't consciously think about it, but I would have nightmares very often. I would be chased by him or by my relatives or by an unknown person, and I would be screaming and fighting for life. And I woke up feeling terrified, and it would trigger a bout of depression in me. Or I would go through the day very volatile or very saddened for many years. But as I became a nun and learned to recognize the hurts that are etched in my body, how it affected my health, my urinary frequency, because we carry trauma in our body. Some of us may experience the trauma in our strong heartbeat, in the feeling of suffocation in our throat, we can't breathe, the heaviness of our chest. We may experience it as a flare of our skin disorder, weakening of our limbs, or we may have severe menstrual pain or urinary frequency as one of my symptoms. And it started since I was in college to medical school. As I grew older, just became weak, because it's like a pair of shoes. If you keep wearing on one side, it will become so eroded, so worn, that the other pair is still good, the other shoe is still good, but this shoe is so lopsided you cannot even wear the pair of shoes. So our body is the same way. We wear the pain, the sadness, the anger, the insecurity. If we pay attention, we'll see just certain parts of our body carry that pain. And so that's expressing hurt from the body. You're hurting me, you're neglecting me, you are putting too much stress and tension on me. Let us listen to that hurt that our body is expressing, that our feelings are expressing, or that we are feeling that towards somebody. It's okay to acknowledge that hurts, to breathe with those hurts, to embrace them tenderly, and to say, I'm here, please help me to heal. And with that practice, after a few years in my monastic life, one night I had a dream, and my uncle was lying on his back, and his body was full of sores, of boils that were festering, just oozing pus, oozing blood. It was so raw. The coyotes are howling at Deer Park right now. Let us breathe and smile. And in the dream, I saw my uncle full of boils, festering sores like this. And I got a little towel and dip it in a bowl of water and gently dab the sores on his body, ever so gently, ever so tenderly. And it was all done in silence. And when I woke up, it was the most tender and healing feeling that I had. That was the depth of my mind, of my consciousness, that express is healing, because these sores were not just on the body of my uncle. These sores were on the body, on my body. These sores are in my mind all of these years as I was growing up as a child into my adulthood. These festering sores. And when we are able to practice, we are able to gently dab on our sores, to care for them, so that they may feel that love, that compassion, that they may heal. We will know how to heal when we pay attention, when we make the commitment to heal. The teacher in us, the compassion in us will show us the way, but we have to choose healing. In Vietnamese, there's a teaching that said, Dục an, tất an. If you want peace, then there will be peace. Don't be so readily choose reaction, violence, and fear, and hatred and resentment towards ourselves or others or the world. We have the capacity for compassion, for love. It's limitless. So to be able to dab on our source to heal our pain, that is the greatest mission, the greatest. If we can do that in our life, we'll be at peace with our life, with ourselves, with the world. Many of us are afraid of sickness, old age, death, and dying. A part of it because we have a lot of regrets and hurts, shame, resentment. A lot of it because we have not lived our life fully. The pain, the griefs have been the obstacles to our capacity to live fully. To be able to acknowledge that, to heal these open sores in us, it enables us to live more deeply, more fully, so that if by chance in the midst of the day we breathe in and we breathe out and we don't breathe in again, we will not be so afraid. If we live fully, if we're able to heal our grief, we will not be so afraid of death. In our daily life, we can practice walking meditation, touching the earth, so that we always come back to the earth element in our body, the earth element around us, to be in touch with life. And there, old age, sickness, and death, we will see is so integral. It enables life, so we are not so fearful of it. So another dream I had that brought about healing was recent, about a year or so. I saw my uncle as a young man standing in front of me and dressing with his white shirt, starched shirt, dress pants. In my mind, that was a teacher, a young teacher. And I faced him and I said, I didn't think of him as my uncle. Only when I woke up, I realized that was the face of my uncle. But I said to that young teacher, thank you. Thank you. I have learned from you. And because of you, I have become who I am. And when I woke up, that was also a deep revelation for me. Our griefs, our suffering and pain, the difficulties that we're struggling right now or in our past. Really, when we learn to do beginning anew with them, they become our teachers. They enable us to live, to touch life more deeply than we can ever imagine. The last aspect of beginning anew, the last step is resolution, to find resolution. And the first step is to say thank you. The second step is to say I'm sorry, to express regrets. The third step is to express hurts, the open sores in us, in our relationship, in other people. And the last one is to find resolution. Again, Thai has taught that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Grief is also inevitable. We experience losses every day in our life. Our health, our youth, a job, a loved one. Many conditions are coming and going in our daily life. grief is inevitable, but suffering is optional. If we learn to recognize what is, to learn that nothing is ours really, things really do come and go. But if we live deeply, that moment becomes eternal. It's always there. Have you ever thought of certain moments in your life? They're so vivid. They're forever etched in our memory, right? And usually because those moments we were truly there. Those moments were so special or so strong that they are etched in our body and our mind. And so mindfulness enables us to live more fully and with the resolution we choose to heal. We know that grief is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And it's only optional because we learn to embrace and to heal it moment by moment with our mindful breathing, mindful walking, with our right view about grief and healing. Okay? So we have just 5 minutes and then we can take a break. And then I would like to leave you an hour so that you can ask questions and we'll go more in depth about the practice then. You see this flower right here? It's a plant that is on the way from the nunnery to the Brothers Hamlet. And it's just a small plant. I wonder if you can see the flowers. Last year, this plant gave many beautiful flowers and I dried them. And together with Sister Bamboo, we made many cards to offer to our lay friends who have really been there to support us over the years. And this year, we had a lot of rain and the plant, it became so brittle, it's just crushed. And one day we were doing walking meditation and I saw that it was bent all the way down. And from the root, the bark was stripped from the wood already, a long distance. But I thought about it, and then the next day I came back with 2 other poles, and I used that branch as 1 and 2 other poles, and to make a tripod and tie them together. And I didn't think there was any hope really. But I was telling the plant, I was talking to the plant verbally. I said, I don't know if this can save you, but this is my gesture of gratitude to let you know that I appreciate you so much for having given us beautiful flowers from last year. And by doing this, holding you up like this is my gesture of care. So you know that I do care. I don't just say the plant is dead, that's okay, that's done, over with. So this is my love, my gratitude for you. And then every day as I pass by this plant, I would smile to it, I would gently touch it. Lo and behold, the leaves, at first there were some yellow withering leaves, but after a week there were no more yellow withering leaves and young leaves came about. And now about a month or so, about 2 months, we have flowers. They're so beautiful. And Sister Bamboo harvested them and make into this flower arrangement. See, we are the same way, my dear. Us, our bodies, our minds. It has been broken in different ways, but at the same time, it's whole, it's beautiful. And only if we recognize it as that, and also we give it conditions. We don't just give up, but we give ourselves a chance again and again. Give it enough conditions of practice, of breathing mindfully, walking mindfully, deep looking, deep listening, loving speech. I love you. I love you. Say that to yourself many times a day. I say that at least 50 times a day, 100 times a day. I love you. I'm here for you. Thank you for you. Wow, it sounds so simple, doesn't it? But it's so incredibly effective. Okay. So let us enjoy 3 sounds of the bell, and then we take a break, 5-minute break, and then please come back with your questions from the heart. Okay. Thank you again for making the time to be together. As I have been sharing, I look at your faces. It makes me very, very, very happy. And my brother, Rotaidao Toe, and Sister Bamboo can also help us in the questions and answers as well. Okay. I'm grateful for you, my dear ones. Let us enjoy 3 sounds of the bell together. Brother Martin.
Thank you.
Be back in 5 minutes. Thank you, my dear.
Dear friends, we invite you to remain muted. In a moment or two, we'll get further instructions.
So let us enjoy 3 sounds of the bell. Enjoy the in-breath. Enjoy the out-breath together. And smile. I see your beautiful faces. I know you're there, and I'm very happy. My dear ones, so now we are open to your questions. There are many of us, so we may not have a chance to ask our questions. Not everybody, but we know that one question may reflect the question of many. Okay, so let us take one question at a time. And if you can, please allow yourself to be seen. And if you are shy, it's okay. Or if you want to write the question down, my brother will help me also. So please go ahead. And after each question that is asked, would you invite one sound of the bell, Brother Martin? Thank you. And so we can now breathe together, touch the depth of the question and the wisdom in us, and then we'll answer. Thank you.
So the invitation is to unmute yourself, share your name and share your question, and mute yourself again afterwards.
So I think we have Diana. Hello, Diana.
Hi, my name is Diana Purvis, and so I have a lot of trauma, and sometimes I get triggered, and that child in me just gets very clingy, and especially to this one person, and I have trouble because he kind of reparented me, and now I'm trying to learn how to reparent myself. So how do I comfort myself in the way that in the practice, in the way that he used to do that for me?
Thank you, Diane.
Let us breathe together with one sound of the bell. Dear Thầy, dear spiritual family, thank you, Diana, for your very real question. We have a quest for safety. It's very important to us, biologically, physiologically, mentally. The body, the mind always find ways to experience safety. So as a child, when we experienced trauma, whether that was some sort of abuse, verbal abuse, psychological, sexual abuse, then that threatened the safety that we always seek for our whole entire life, but it got threatened so early in life. And then because of that, trust was disrupted. The formation of trust was disrupted, and it can and it does affect the rest of our life. The sense of safety in our own body, in ourselves, the sense of trust that we may not have for ourselves and others. But the quest for safety is always there. And that is why we may have a tendency to cling on to another person, to look for that comfort, that safety, that reassurance, or the opposite mechanism, but also for the same reason, is that we don't trust anybody and we push everybody away. We become incredibly isolated, including ourselves, just to feel safe so that we don't be betrayed again. So we may have different extremes, but just remember that it's actually for the same end, that we want love, we want trust, we want safety. The practice, we have a teaching on soulmate. If you read Mindfulness as Medicine, the book that I wrote a few years ago, and when I learned the word soulmate in Vietnamese, it was an enlightenment for me. Soulmate in Vietnamese is tri kỷ. Tri, T-R-I, means to remember, to know, to master. And kỷ means oneself. We always look for a soulmate outside, somebody who loves us, accepts us, comforts us. But a tri kỷ, a soulmate, is one who remembers, who knows, who masters herself, himself. The practice enables us to learn to be our own soulmate. Wherever you are, come back to your breath. Get in touch with your breath. See whether it's peaceful in that moment or it's hurried, it's laborious. Know your breath. Be a soulmate to your breath, because your breath reflects the state of your mind. If you're angry, your breathing pattern is different. If you're sad, your breathing pattern is different. If you feel secure, you breathe differently. If you feel threatened, insecure, your breathing pattern is different. It changes moment to moment, depending on your state of mind. So be a soulmate to your breath. You get to know your state of mind. Be a soulmate to your body, my dear. Scan through your body throughout the day. Say thanks to your body. Say sorry to your body. Massage your hands, your face. Smile to yourself. We learn to connect. From this pandemic, I read, I saw this line: if you cannot go outside, then go inside. Go inside. Now that you are sheltering in place, take this opportunity to go inside, to learn to be a soulmate to this wonderful, loving, loyal body. Be a soulmate to yourself. And as we learn to be there for ourselves more and more, the need to cling on to others, to certain conditions that we may think will bring us happiness and security, that impulse will lessen. And we know, many of us have had several relationships, have gone through different marriages, or, even with our parents or siblings or good friends. If we cannot be there for ourselves, even if others are there for us, we'll reject them. We won't believe that they love us, right? We're like, you don't mean it. It's not real. It is us. As we learn to come back, to be there when you walk, you practice sitting meditation, be a soulmate to your breath. Then be a soulmate to your mind. Just listen. What is your mind telling you? Breathe and smile with the thoughts, with the feelings that arise. It is incredibly fulfilling. It's incredibly enlightening. And you will appreciate yourself a whole lot more. And from that place, you'll be able to care and love for others, not out of the need for affirmation. It's not like I love you, so you love me back. I listen to you, so you listen to me back. We can do it for ourselves. And thus, it's much more natural, much easier. We can do it for others, or when others offer to us, we will be able to receive it more fully. Okay? Thank you, Diana. Bless you. We'll take the next question.
So, dear friends, the next question is a written question from Linda. And also I see Sinead has raised her hand, so Sinead will come to you after Linda's question. I'll read out Linda's question. My sister recently decided to end her life. After years of dealing with a mental illness, would you speak more about suicide? And Linda, also, if you want to add anything, please feel free before Sister D replies.
Linda bowing in, thank you very much. Yeah, I've been able to do a lot of grieving around it, and just wondering how to hold it. And so I would appreciate any insights that you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear Linda. Let us breathe together with one sound of the bell. In the Buddhist tradition, we have the practice of 49 days. When my partner passed away, I think I saw Auntie Chow Yoda at some point on the screen. Actually, I went to a retreat with Thai just 3 weeks before my partner happened to pass away. And then after the retreat, I joined her sangha. And when my partner suddenly passed away at the age of 33, I really didn't know what to do. I was so overwhelmed with grief. I just really lost my sense of direction, because when somebody passes away, you grieve after the loss of that person, but it causes you to look at your whole life. In that moment, I asked myself, if I were to die in the midst of the day, would I be able to say that I have lived my life? Would I have been able to say that I had peace in my life? Would I have any regret? And my answers were no. I wouldn't have been able to say I had peace, and I would have many regrets. And that was really painful for me to see it, to see the reality of it. And so Chow Yoda, she was so kind to help me to find a temple and to go there to have ceremonies once a week for 7 weeks. And now as I reflect, it has a lot of wisdom. First of all, it helps us to acknowledge our grief. Sometimes when we lose somebody we love, a friend, even a friend or a family member, we have to go to work. We just don't deal with it very much. And so to be able to slow down, to acknowledge, even to chant in our daily life or once a week, it is like to formally acknowledge that there is somebody who has passed away, and we recognize that, we acknowledge that. And so we do sitting meditation, we do chanting as individuals, but we also come together as a community. Like I went to that temple, there were other monks, there were other lay practitioners, and so that's the community that helps hold us. If you have a local sangha, even with this time online, if you can have chanting together, you can have Dharma sharing together, then that helps us to acknowledge and embrace the grief individually and collectively. There's a lot of wisdom in that, because again, grieving is a process. And if we go through the process beautifully in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end, when we look back at it, it is a healing, enlightening experience. But if we go through this process with just sheer pain or darkness or forgetfulness, when we look back, then it only has sheer pain, darkness, and suffering. And so every time we look back at it, it's a trauma, it's traumatic to us. And so the process is very important. And also we have the teaching of interbeing. And I have this model of a yin yang bean that you can find online. And the bean is tiny, but half of it is white. And you can see that half of it is black. And in the white, there is the black dot. And on the black side, there is the white dot. And this, I call it an interbeing, but it reflects the deep teaching of the Buddha on interbeing. Our loved one, your sister Linda, may have passed away, but she's right in you. If she's your blood sister, is she your blood sister? Yeah, you share the same 23 chromosomes from your mother and from your father. She is in you. I mean, literally, she's in you. You share those same genes. And since she passed away, your memories of her are very alive, right? And nothing is lost. Her smiles, the way she walks, the way she talks, they're all there. And she's in you. She's still there in her children, in the people who love her, in her relatives. So we learn to see ourselves in each other. We are, of course, we're familiar with the form, but we also learn to see beyond the form, so that we learn to keep each other alive by doing the best we can to live more fully, to live more beautifully. In your daily life, you may say, Linda, you may say to your sister, what is her name?
Shelley.
Shelley, you say, Shelley, I'm sitting for you.
And I'm going to go to the 21-day retreat at Sugar Plum Sangha coming up. I had set that up before this happened. And so I'm feeling so grateful that I have and I did the 3 days recently and had that before this happened. So
awesome.
It's all been very supportive.
Allow Shelley to go to the retreat with you, to learn and grow with you. When we only allow sad memories to overcome us, we inadvertently make the people as dead as possible. We cause that person to belong to the past. But in our daily life, if we say, I walk for you, Shelley, I sit for you, I learn the Dharma, so I have more peace, more joy in my daily life, so grow with me, Shelley. Then in that way, the beautiful things about Shirley can be continued through you and through her loved ones, and her sadness, her unresolved business, her unfinished business, her suffering can also be transformed through you. And you would do a great kindness for Shirley if you help transform certain things in her life that she didn't have a chance to do that, but you do that in your own life, and she can smile in you. Okay, bless you, my dear one.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so the next question comes from Sinead, and then afterwards it's Jerome and Natalie. So go ahead, Sinead.
Dear respected hi, dear brothers and sisters, and dear sister Nghiem, I just want to begin by saying thank you so much for your beautiful teachings. I'm really, really touched by your compassion, your heartfulness, and your honesty, and I feel really blessed to be here with you all and to share this moment with you. My question it's about, I suppose, losing someone you love deeply, and how when do you know, or how do you know when it's time to let them go? So just from my own story, my own father passed away suddenly 5 years ago, and I guess, you know, there was for a long time I was really overcome or overwhelmed with grief and with regrets, and that feeling of helplessness. And you know, Thai teachings has really helped me to live through that grief, and especially, I suppose, you know, the teachings of interbeing, because I know that he is with me in my heart, and he's in every cell of my body. But it's you know, it's more difficult to let maybe perhaps let the emotions go, because he died quite suddenly, and not having the chance to say goodbye to him and tell him how much I loved him. And you know, it's and that sense of grasping, or you know, attaching to have him close to me. So I guess my question is, when do you know, or is there a time that you know that your heart is ready to set him free and to set yourself free from maybe the emotions that you're carrying with you? Thank you.
Thank you, my dear Sinead. Wonderful. Let us enjoy our breath together. Breathing in and breathing in for my beloved father. Breathing out and breathing out for him and with him. When to know that we should let go of our loved one who has passed away. You really never really have to let him go. He's an intimate part of you. When we are grasping, you know, think of this, when we're holding on like this, how long can you hold on to your fist? And how much can you hold in your fist? Not very much and not very long. But when you are able to open your palms like this, you can hold so much and for so long. And you can take in more. So as you live your life with the practice, to see him in your daily life, to sit with him. I invite my mother to sit with me. Like when I became a nun, my relationship with my mother, my whole life was so turbulent. I resented her so much because she was very physically violent and verbally violent when she was angry, you know. But as I became a nun, I would say to my mom, Mother, I'm walking for you. You never had a chance to walk peacefully. You all were always in a hurry to work, to make money, to take care of us, to take care of your big family. but now I walk peacefully for you. Mother, I sit for you. You never had a chance to sit still, always on the run. And then you disappeared at such a young age, only 36 years old. So as I was able to do that more and more for my mother, it's like I live my mother's life for her. And for 20 years more, in my dreams, my mother and we would pass each other, and she was never able to recognize me, never said anything to me, and I would wake up feeling so depressed from that. But a year or two into the practice, I dreamt about her, and she was saying something to me, and in my dream, I recognized she was saying something to me, and I said, "Yes, Mother." And I woke up right in that moment, feeling incredibly tender towards her. I hadn't said, "Yes, Mother," for so long, you know? It was such a healing moment. So our parents, our loved ones, they're never lost. They're there in our body, in our consciousness. And when we suffer, then they are in hell, you know? They're stuck in darkness and in suffering, in regrets, in shame. But when we liberate ourselves day by day, moment to moment, with our peace, with our forgiveness towards ourselves, with our practice of beginning anew, as we feel lighter in body and mind, our loved ones also experience that lightness, that release, that liberation right inside of us. You know, my mother, another dream I had, she was preparing me, packing up for me to become a nun. But I had been a nun for 2-3 years already, you know. But my consciousness was catching up on it. And again, I woke up with such a tender feeling that my mother was knowing. She knew what I was doing. She was on my side. She was supportive of it. So now you look at me, right? You've never met my mother, but guess what? You're looking at me. And I've never met your father, but I'm looking right at you right now. I am sure he's there in your hair, in your eyes, in your nose, in your smile, in your temperament, in the way you walk. You see, let him be alive. You never have to let him go. You never have to say, "Dad, I'm done with you. I'm moving on with my life." So, you know, "Dad, grow with me, grow up with me, grow old with me, guide me. Help me to heal your pain. Help me to smile with those I love. Help me to take better care of you in me and of me in you." You see? This doesn't have to be that separation. And you know, this interbeing, when you take care of yourself, you are taking care of your father, and he can rest in peace right inside of you, right? All he wants for you is to be happy, to live a full life. That's all he wants for you. And when you do that, you're fulfilling those dreams, those wishes for him. Okay, my dear?
Thank you so much.
Bless you.
So, dear friends, our next question is from Jerome.
First of all, thank you, Jerome, bowing in. I'm so happy with your talk. It was really wonderful. Thank you very much. I've been living with cancer for more than 23 years. And 2.5 years ago, I had kidney failure due to blockage of cancer in my ureters. So now I have to live the rest of my life with a nephrostomy tube. And 5 years ago, I wrote a book on the 7 principles of mindfulness and healing. So I'm really curious if you would summarize the principles from your book about mindfulness and medicine. Would you please do that?
hạt trắng ở đây. Rồi a sound the bell together. Thank you, Uncle Jerome, for your question. I wonder if you say thank you to your body daily or not, because your body is incredible. You have lived 20 years, 23 years with cancer, and look at what a good complexion you have. You
Thank
look
you.
wonderful, my dear. That is incredible. Yes. And you continue to live, to be productive, to practice, to write a book, to be here with us today. That speaks a lot of strength in you and your body. That's really amazing. And I'm much younger than you probably, but I'm sure I also learned like you. First of all is to, for me, first of all is to be at peace with what is, okay? To learn to make peace. Like I was sharing earlier, the teaching on Dục An, Tắc An, if you want peace, then there's peace. When I got Lyme disease, it affected me cognitively. So now I'm able to speak, to type, and everything, but for a while, my speech was quite affected, and my writing, my memory recall, all of those cognitive functions were disrupted, besides the physical pain and inflammation, etc. But one dream I dreamt that there was this little bug on the hair of somebody, and I tried to flick it away, but it wouldn't budge. So I did that the third time, and it was a bit too harsh, so I felt bad, and I said to the young woman, I said, but that bug is very dangerous, it can kill you. But the next moment I saw the little bug turn out to be like a little tick. You know, it was walking into the forest, but before it walked into the forest, it turned around and winked at me. It winked at me. And one moment I said, it's really dangerous, it can kill you. But the next moment, with that wink, I had to chuckle. And I woke up with a smile. So I learned to make peace with that tick. If we have a physical illness, a sadness, a loss, we learn to acknowledge it and make peace with it. For me, that's foremost important. And every time when I took the medication, I would hold it in my hand. And for a while, I would look at the drawing of that tick winking at me, and I would smile and give thanks to the pill before I swallow it. So another practice I had was to be my own soulmate, as I was sharing, to be there, to scan through the body throughout the day, to recognize the physical pain and mental pain that was arising, to breathe and relax it as it came. The Buddha taught about the second arrow. When you have an arrow shot into your arm, for example, the pain is shocking. But if you have the second arrow shot into that same wound, the pain is exponential, not just double, but exponential. So we go through traumas in our life, challenges, difficulties. That's the first arrow. A diagnosis of a physical illness, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, etc. But if we are not aware, then we shoot the second arrow into our wound with our denial, our anger, our depression, with all that extra pain, then it makes it a lot harder to heal. So to be able to be a soulmate to ourselves, to recognize what's arising and to embrace it right in that moment, we avoid that second arrow, you see?
Mm-hmm.
And to learn to smile. When I cry now, I can cry and I learn to smile with that too. Breathe and smile with my tears. Breathe and smile with my pain, the pain that I feel for others. And that allows us to be truly present for ourselves and for others. And that also helps me to see that my pain is not my pain. Like I wrote the book Healing, it's not really about my life. It's about the life of so many others. But if by chance I have a chance to be a voice for so many others, then may I be that, so that others also have a chance to be heard and to heal.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Just
dear.
to let you know, I'll be 81 in October.
Congratulations, Joanne.
Amazing. Thank you, my dear.
So our next question comes from Natalie, calling from Mexico today.
Hola, dear Thai, dear Sangha. I'm very happy to be here today. Dear sister, I've read your book, and some of what you've already said has really been helpful to what I may be even asking this. But on page 69, this is because of that, is you talk about your classmate Jen that you had called, and you had realized that the two of you had switched careers, had switched lives, so to speak, and for lack of a better way of saying it. And I was just wondering if you could say a few things about, like, because right now with pandemic and or having a sudden retirement, both things happening in my life, things come up like with ego and image and what I used to do and what I don't do now and those kinds of things. I just wondered if you could say something a little about that.
Wonderful.
Bowing out.
Let us enjoy our sound of the bell together. Thank you, Natalie, for your question. It's about our self-identity. When we lose a job, when we switch career, when we change direction in our life, we may experience a loss of self-identity, a confusion. I worked very hard to obtain the medical degree. Coming from a dysfunctional family, losing both of my parents, coming to a country, learning a new language, and going to school for 23, 24 years of my life. So it was not easy for me to let go of medicine and to become a nun. Most people, I'm sure you have a positive way of looking at monks and nuns, but you are biased. Many people may think us as, doing nothing and not having a job. So it was not easy, but because of the loss of John, it forced me to see, to examine the meaning of my life. Like I was saying earlier, if I were to die in the midst of the day, would I be at peace? Would I be able to say I have no regrets? And I think if that can be the essence of our life, is to touch peace, to transform our suffering, to manifest, cultivate and manifest the wholesomeness, the beauty, the truth in us, then whatever we do, it will be meaningful. We will not place our self-identity in the work that we do. Even as a nun, when I got Lyme disease, I also experienced all over again the loss of self-identity. I was being able to share the Dharma, to cook, to clean, to do everything like my monastic siblings were doing. But when I was sick, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go to activities. I couldn't cook anymore. When I translated for Thai, I would stutter, the words couldn't come, and I had to stop translating for Thai. I had to stop giving Dharma talks. My sense of self, even as a nun, of course, we have the sense of ego, the sense of self, was again, over again challenged. But again, I reminded myself, my value is in my own acceptance, in being able to be there for myself moment to moment, to breathe and to embrace what is arising moment to moment, to transform this suffering in my body and in my mind. And I made that as my concentration. And I learned that even if my body becomes disintegrated, my intelligence was not as intact as those around me. But if I had mindfulness, if I had compassion, then insights would always arise. I wouldn't be as smart as others, but I would still be insightful, because insights would still arise when we have mindfulness and concentration. Insights would arise, and the insights are what help us to live a life that has meaning. It helps us to know what to do, not what to do, what to say and what not to say, what to think and what to let go. You see, the insights, the wisdom, the understanding, that brings about love for ourselves and others in the world. That gives us the sense of fulfillment. So I think you can totally celebrate this early retirement. Make more time to sit with yourself, to enjoy walks, yes, to learn dance, to go back to dancing, go back to singing, go back to painting, to join online retreats. And when it's open, go back, come visit us. You see, like, really enjoy this time. We always have a choice. You choose to be sad about something, or you choose to make the best out of it. And you can really make the best out of everything and anything. Okay, so enjoy, my dear ones. It's a great thing because you're still young and healthy. Right? Yeah. Bless you. Okay, maybe we take another question or two. Yes.
Yeah, so we had a question from Joe asking if Sister Dee could say something about regret, please. And then we also have the question from Maureen. And I'm wondering, Maureen, would you like to speak your question, or would you like us to read the question?
I could speak to it. That's fine. Thank you, brother.
Hello, Maureen.
Hello.
How are you?
Good to see you, sister. So good to see you. You want to take Joe's question first, brother, and then I'll...
Maybe you ask your question and I'll combine.
Okay. I'll try to keep it a short one because when I wrote it, it was a long one. Pardon me. I'm aware of some habitual feelings that are really long-standing and I think go back to a very young childhood. And I have some of the sensations, and I really got insights from what you taught today, because I think there's some of the things that then I retreat and I'm not available to others or to myself. sometimes stories come up in my head about them, but I really don't have a concrete memory. So I just have the feelings and the sensations, sometimes the sensations. And then my head goes off on the stories and I say, well, yeah, but you don't know that, and let it go. And so I just wonder if you have suggestions of practices that would help me to get to the root and get to an insight about the feelings so that I can let them go and let my isolation go. Thank you, sister.
Wonderful, Maureen. Let us enjoy our breath together. Dear beloved Thầy, dear family, it's a question from Joe and Maureen about regret, and also about living with the stories in our mind and how to heal from that. Many of us, as I shared earlier, we unknowingly had a certain coping mechanism, and so it became a habit. The way we think has become habitual, the way we speak, the way we behave, they have become habitual, automatic. And also it has also become addictive to us. A person who has suffered from depression over the years, as much as we want to say, I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer, but we're actually physiologically and psychologically addicted to our depression or anger or resentment or fear, because whatever that is most rehearsed in our body, in our mind, that becomes a part of us. And it's like it has become a freeway, the neural pathway in us, a trail has become a freeway, and it's automatic. So to just be able to acknowledge that, to say, wow, I'm actually addicted to my suffering, I'm addicted to the stories, and smile with that, is already an enlightenment. You see, a young student asks, do you practice to become enlightened, or do you have to have an enlightenment in order to practice? And actually I answered him, I said, we actually start with enlightenment, and then we practice from that enlightenment. If you are enlightened to the fact that there's an addiction in you, addiction to that coping mechanism, to those stories, then you can smile to that. That's already a practice of non-fear. You smile to the sensations that arise in your body. You breathe and smile and relax. You breathe and smile and relax to those thoughts that arise in you, to the way you speak, the way you behave. And you just like, I know you're there. And help me to transform that. Don't have to go back to the stories. Don't have to say what's right and what's wrong, because there's no way to prove it. And actually, there's no point to it, actually. You have a life right now. You are this woman with all the conditions of happiness, conditions to practice. Just smile with that, relax, and then live that moment and the next moment and the next moment. Just remember, in the teaching of interbeing, the one contains the all. The one is in the all. So your resentment, your way of thinking is addictive. It has been for so long, rehearsed so long. Those stories have always been there. And the past, you don't have to go back to the past to change it. The past is in the present. The future is in the present. If we learn in this present moment to be able to not push or pulled by those stories, by those negative views and speech towards ourselves, we are changing, transforming the present moment. And the past is healed in the present moment. And we are also healing the future, because the future is made of this foundation of the present. You see, if you can say one kind, loving thing to yourself, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that mean thing to myself. I'm here, then you will be able to do it again and again in the future. Okay, my dear? So before I forget, also, I would like to share with you a little bit. During this time, this pandemic, our monasteries have been closed, and we've not been able to conduct retreats and days of mindfulness. And those are our ways of actually of reaching out to support our lay brothers and sisters, but also that is the way we can operate our monasteries. That's our income. So may I ask that you keep us in your heart, in your practice, but also do your best to support our monasteries through TNH Foundation, so that together we can go through these difficult times, especially financially for the monastics, so that we can maintain our practice. We maintain the operation of our monasteries, and we can continue with our practice and support our family, all of you out there during this time, and also for time to come. And also another thing I would like to share is that true to the teaching of impermanence, this pandemic, sooner or later it will pass, and we'll go back to our normal routine, but also don't let ourselves go back to the normal routine. Okay, I think all of us will have learned a lot from this time being in confinement, shelter in place. We have seen that, touched the pain, the confusion, but we also see that, wow, we can really live a simple life. We can also stay still. We can also connect with each other, to go inward and also to reach out. So make sure we don't just simply go back and be busy and be swept away, but look deeply, use this as an opportunity for deep looking, for retreat, and write down the things that we have learned, and write down the things that we are changing now, so that we can continue to foster that change as we go back to the activities. And also through this experience, we learn how connected we are. Those people in other countries, war-torn countries, the poor people, people who are so underprivileged, who have no access to health care, or who have no country really in this moment, that if they suffer, we cannot be happy. If they continue to contract the illness, we cannot be safe. So in that way, we open our hearts to see ourselves in a much larger context in the human family. We are, so that we focus less on the convenience, the material life that we have, but we share more with others. We reach out to comfort more and to help make policies that can protect the poor, the underprivileged, the disadvantaged, the ones who are discriminated against. We help change policies so that all have a chance to have safety, to have support, and also to help protect Mother Earth and her creatures, so that we can be healthy as a body, as a whole. Okay. Bless you, my dear. I wonder if you would like to ask another question. I know it's 12, 03 right now, but I'm happy to stay on. Or if just for comments, perhaps you can just give a few comments, okay?
So dear friends, I think normally how we do it on these calls is that around now it's just past the hour. We offer a chance for the people that have other engagements to leave. And then, of course, like Sister Dee is saying, we still have a few more minutes afterwards if some of you would like to stay for a little follow-up. But before some of you leave, just to follow up on what Sister Dee said, if you would like to make a donation or a contribution, you can visit plumvillage.org and click on the link for giving, or the Thich Nhat Hanh Foundation also. And just before you go, also, I want to thank all of you for coming here today and taking part in the call. It really supports us. It's we're very fortunate here in the monastery to have a place to isolate, but it's really wonderful to see everyone and to see you all smiling. I want to thank Martin also for organizing, along with Maeve and Jack and Jane Ann also helps out. So thank you, all of you. And then lastly, just to thank Sister Dee, Sister Nghiem and Sister Bamboo for coming to be here today. So yeah, thanks everyone. So be safe, be well. If you need to leave, please enjoy the rest of your morning or your evening, wherever you are in the world. And after a sound of a bell in a moment, we can continue with a little follow-up for a few minutes, like Sister Dee suggested. Thank you.
Thank you. And I heard somebody did a marathon in his apartment. So make sure as you stay wherever you are to walk about the walking meditation, fast walking. Okay, keep up with the exercise, the healthy dieting. These are all ways to love ourselves, to be our soulmate to ourselves. Okay. Please go ahead and share.
Before people bow out and leave, thank you very much, everyone from Mindfulness Ireland in Ireland. And we're all so interconnected, 250 people, households, families, so wonderful. Thank you, sisters, and dear brother, thank you very much. And you will receive the links for Dana, and you will receive the audio recording of this in an email from myself in a few days' time. And please don't put off making the donation, because it really does help the monasteries. And I feel guilty when I forget to do it, and the guilt is worse than paying 10 euros. So please be encouraged. Thank you.
Smile, don't feel guilty. You are supporting us with your practice. That's deep love. If you would like to say something, to smile, to wave, please do. I see you. Hello, John. Hi. I see Uncle Mike. Natalie, Helena, hi, my dear. Wow, Derry, hello. Oh, Phil Stein, May, Catherine.
Hi, Bowen, Catherine.
And goodbye. I love you, sister, and all. Love you.